Doesn't it sound beautiful to build a bridge of light? And what's the only thing that will build that bridge? How many of you were listening? Love, of course. And my favorite mystic Rumi says, we don't need to seek for love. Well, what we know is love is already there because love really is all there is. But he says we don't need to seek for love. We just need to look for all the barriers and walls that we have built against it. If we're going to make this world a better place, where we start, number one, is looking at our own limitations and habitual living. We've got to look at ourselves first. So we've got to find, because we know that God is all there is and God is love, so it has to mean that love is all there is. It's there, but we have that free will and power to build the walls against it if we choose. If we choose. Leonard Cohen says, there's a crack in everything. An imperfection, a crack. That's how the light gets in. So in appearances, there's going to be a crack in everything in this physical world. But do you know how the Japanese mend their broken objects? They put gold in the cracks. Because they figure that when an object has been through the pain of being damaged and broken and has a history, it's much more precious and valuable. We know that life is tough. Is there anybody here that does not know that yet? Life is tough. But the toughness is how we handle what comes our way, how we handle what shows up for us. Now, we talk about these agreements because we make agreements in life. We make agreements when we start really little, how we're going to live. We listen to what our parents and our school and what people tell us, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, the way life is. And we have really powerful memories. And that gets deep in our consciousness. In fact, as a little sidetrack, I had a friend send me a list of survival tips for men. Some of you might have gotten it. And I think my favorite is, men, don't make women mad. They have such great memories. They remember things that haven't happened yet. We do have great memories, but, oh, stop it. But even more powerful than our memories, even more powerful than that, is our ability of creation, of newness. And it's time for us to make new agreements in life. We've all heard the story about when little baby elephants are being trained and they're tied by a rope that's pretty big that holds them down to a stake. It keeps them there. But as they grow, they get conditioned to believing that same rope that they could easily break when they become these big, huge animals, they become conditioned to believing that rope will still keep them staked and held in place. And that's what happens to us. We make up these old agreements with life, with ourselves, with our families, with society, anything. And we live by them even when they hold us back and keep us down. And it's time for us to make new agreements. So again, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote this book, The Four Agreements, where he took his ancient Toltec wisdom and combined it with modern insights of being a surgeon and scientific research and created these 4 new agreements for us to work on in life, to create love, kindness, respect in our lives and in the world. The first agreement, and you can decide how you're doing on your own little monitor, is the first agreement is, what about, be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. It means don't give any negative energy out with the power of that sacred thing called your word. Think how you're doing on that. The second one, which I thought might be the hardest, is don't take anything personally, because I'm really sensitive. That seems so hard until I got to this one, which is don't make assumptions. We make assumptions about everything all the time. Just as Em said, we're just constantly making assumptions. But we need to, today I'm going to talk about some little tricks and tips we can make in our own mind so we can step away from making assumptions, because assumptions keep us stuck in the past. What happens is assumption means that we think we know the answer to something without any proof. We make up stories about things, and then we think they're true, and we take them personally, and then we have a deep need in our lives to be right. Right? And we need to be right, so then we hold on to our assumptions, and we blame other people because we think they're doing something wrong when we don't even know why they're doing something really, but we've made up these assumptions. Do you know what I mean? Or another side of that is we make up the assumption that just because we're close to someone, they should know what we're thinking or what we want, And then, because they don't meet our expectations, we get really angry. We start saying shoulda, coulda, woulda, and the drama and the chaos. Can you see how assumptions cause a great big problem in life? We're making up these stories about things. I remember, and this is a story I heard 30 years ago, when longer than that, first getting into this teaching. And I remember this story because it's so simple and so sweet, but it's so true. There was a school of very coordinated and synchronized fish. And they were swimming very nicely in cooperation through the ocean. And they looked over, and oh my goodness, there is a fish over there, one fish by itself, erratic, flopping around, just misbehaving. And they said, do you know what kind of environment that fish was raised in? It doesn't know how to behave or take care of itself. They were just horrified because they missed seeing the hook in its mouth and that it was fighting for its life. Don't we miss things about people because we want to stereotype? We want to put people in boxes. We want to accuse people because it's always been this way, it's always going to be this way. And we forget that that's not the truth. We are here to grow and evolve and to change, and we can do that. So I'm going to talk about some ways. How many here make assumptions? How much of the time? All the time. That's just the truth, but we can get better. Because remember, we have powerful memories, but more powerful than that, we have within us the power and the potential to grow and to change and become. So the number one thing, and you can decide, I think we all need to do, is we need to get a little more humble. Jesus said, until you humble yourself and become like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Now remember, the kingdom of heaven, as we understand it, is not a place you go after you die. It's a place you are in here. It's when you have peace and love and kindness in your heart. That's what the kingdom of heaven is, when you respect yourself and respect life. And if you think of little children are curious. They're constantly asking questions. They're hungry for life. And I'll tell you what, children don't have the same assumptions. They see people as equals. So if we think about becoming more humble, having more humility, I'm going to give you a little test. We're all working on this. Because, as we grow, we go from the selfish teens. Well, our teens aren't selfish, of course, but that stage, the adolescent stage, where it's all about me, because that's how we learn about life, to grow into being more humble adults, hopefully. That's the process. So here are some things to think about on this journey of humility. When you're a truly humble person, you don't need to boast or brag. Now, all of us love to be in the spotlight sometime because it's fun. It's fun to get attention. But when you're a humble person, that's not what's important. You can listen and hear others, and it's not as important to always put you in the mix of things. If you're a humble person, you want to make other people happy. It's okay to put other people first. Self-absorbed people always ask, okay, what's in it for me? A person filled with humility says, how can I make this a better situation for all? They see a bigger picture in life. Humble people don't believe that life owes them. Do you know how many entitled people we see in the world right now where I deserve more than this. I deserve more. Well, life is a gift. It's a gift. Humble people don't have a victim mentality. They look at what they have and make the best of it, and think of what they can give more than what they can get. Doesn't that feel good? All this humility thing, doesn't it sound good? Doesn't mean you can't get stuff and have stuff and do stuff at all, but it means you have a heart that's expanded, seeing a bigger picture. And the last piece of that is, and this was a great test when I read this. It said, humble people don't see themselves as better or worse than anyone else. The test, they feel that anyone has the potential to be great wherever they are. Whatever they have, whatever they don't have, it doesn't matter, they have the potential to be great. And here's the line I love. If you feel on the same level as the janitor and CEO at the same time when you walk into a business, then you are truly a person filled with humility. Because being humble doesn't mean making yourself less than anyone. It means seeing the equality in all and wanting to be part of the greater good. So if we do that, we can help not make assumptions. If we become more humble in our life, more reflective in things. And the second thing I want to talk about, so humility is part of it. But what I know, and I think we all work on, I have a whole shelf filled with books on communication. Does anybody else have any of those? How to communicate better in the world, because the biggest problem in making assumptions is we are either too afraid, too lazy, maybe too stuck in our habitual thinking to ask for clarification. We're too afraid. We're too lazy. We'll just make up our own story than to take the time to communicate clearly. We need to take responsibility for being the best communicators we can be. Now, this may be a little different than you think, because number one, in communicating clearly, we have to have a voice to be able to ask questions and realize we're not always going to get the answer we want. People are different. People don't think like we do, thank goodness, all the time, because how boring that would be. People have the right to say yes or no, but we have to have that courage to ask questions. Does that make sense? To ask questions for greater understanding so we can understand what's going on. Because I guarantee you right now, I couldn't guess what's going on in any of your minds right now, because they're your minds, and we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So we're all different and unique. So finding a voice to ask the questions. Number two, equally as important, and it's so hard for so many of us to do this. We must find our voice to ask for what we really want. No one's going to know. The only person that knows what we really want is us. So we have to be able to ask questions, to learn, have a shared pool of meaning with people so we understand what's going on, because we're all coming into this with different ideas and thoughts, and to ask for what we really want. That's so important. And then when we speak, to get our minds clear, because I'm going to tell you what, I think this is a problem for all of us. We think too much. Constantly going. Our minds are like, in our minds, like having wild horses, doing whatever they want, running around. And we may come up, there's a problem in our life, and we may want to solve the problem, or there's a great idea we want to manifest. And then we'll spend a moment and start thinking, because that's a really good time to think, and then we'll think about it, and then we'll come up with an idea or a next step, and then you know what we'll do? think some more. And then we drive ourselves crazy because we don't know what the right answer is. We've got all these ideas going on in our head. We've got to just learn to breathe and not think too much. So when we speak, we're speaking clearly as we can, because our job is not to bring more chaos and confusion and drama into an already crazy, confusing, dramatic world. So we want to be the clear ones. So we want to be humble. We want to speak clearly. And the last idea I have for you, this is, to me, it's about our bridge of light. It's being able to lean into life. Instead of pulling back and putting up walls and bridges to protect ourselves, to have the courage to lean into life. If you ask a pilot, they will tell you the slightest, most seemingly insignificant tilt of a wing will totally alter the direction a plane is going. If you and I have the courage to lean into spirit, to lean into love, to lean into possibility, if we can lean into our life to be on purpose with the intention to make the world better, clearer, more loving, kinder, more peaceful, no matter what's going on in our life. We see when there's catastrophes in the world, I love watching how people band together in times of difficulty. If we watch the East Coast, what's going on with the storms there, and how people help each other, and how much people are touched by sheer strangers coming out to help them for good. There's kindness, there is love, there's always possibility, and meaningful answers are always there if we will lean in and have that courage to find something more. If you were here for our workshop last Sunday, Ariel Ford talked about wabi-sabi love. And we thought it was about marriages and couples together, but it's about a way to live life. It's about learning to love the imperfections of life. So my thought today is, when we feel ourselves making assumptions and wanting to respond to how life isn't working how we want, let's take a little hint from the Japanese culture. And whatever you think, the gold I think of is the sparklies of God's love, of potential, of light. If we can just think to be humble like children and want to make things better, we can build that bridge of light and be that bridge of love as we choose. There are the sparklies I was talking about. I love that. To lean into life, lean into love. So take this moment with me. Just close your eyes for just a moment, please. We're going to take this time. We've talked about all the assumptions that we make. And this is an opportunity in this moment to let go and let God be God as us. The beautiful creation that we are, that perfection that's at the center of our being and at the center of everything. Let's ignite it now. Ignite it with the light of infinite spirit awakening within us as we each know and claim our goodness, our beauty, our light, that we can make a difference right here and right now, and know that our life in this moment and every moment is created choice by choice by choice that we make. And we know in this moment right here, we live on purpose with the intention to fill ourselves with the courage to live fully, to be fully expressed. We choose to take this moment to lean into love, to lean into goodness, to be a healer, to be a receiver, to be all the parts of life as we see it coming together for the common good. And just hearing the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, we take this time to join together in the consciousness of having a dream of a world that works for everyone. Not a world that is perfect, but a world that works because we're all directing, correcting, becoming the best we can be. I'm inviting us in this moment right here and now to lean into the love that's already ignited within, to lean into it, and to know in this moment that we have the choice right now to take the barriers down, to be the light of love, to let the world be healed simply because we are ignited. How good it is. We say, thank you, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We release this, we let it go, and together we say, and so it is. You know that I love each and every one of you. I see your light. I am blessed by your presence. Thank you.